If you were lost in the wilderness and bad weather was coming in, would you know how to stay warm and dry? This is Jim with today's First Prep Basic Skills lesson. No one ever plans to be put in a position of having to sleep in the wilderness with no supplies, and while hypothermia can cause multiple physical and mental dysfunctions, it can cause poor judgment, which can increase the overall risk of further exposure. These risks may be easily avoided by constructing a simple shelter. In this lesson, we will look at building a debris shelter for an emergency situation. It is a simple shelter that can be made using natural materials usually available in the wilderness. It does not require any tools to build, and its two main features are that it can provide protection from the elements like wind and rain, and it uses your own body heat to warm it, which becomes very important if you are unable to secure another source of warmth, such as a fire. If you have time before it gets dark, it may benefit you to find a location that has plenty of building materials such as sticks, branches, and leaves on the ground. Also, boughs and evergreen limbs can help a lot as well. Look around to make sure your site is free from hazards, such as dead or damaged trees that may fall over or have big branches that may break off in winds or bad weather. An elevated location can help you avoid pooling water as well. And if that area has a split tree or stump, you can use that as the base of your shelter. There are several ways to support the front of your shelter. However, because we're looking at this from an emergency standpoint, that we're going to go with the simplest, easiest way of getting this accomplished. Because in an emergency, time and energy is an important resource, and that will save on both of them. Once you find your location, find a sturdy branch or tree for your ridgepole. The ridgepole will be your main support pole. One side of the ridgepole will be elevated by whatever you choose to support it. Your ridgepole should be equal to your height plus 2 to 3 feet to make sure you will have enough room to lay down in your shelter. While placing your ridgepole, make sure that your support is strong and sturdy and be aware of the wind direction. Facing your shelter entrance away from the wind will help keep you protected. After you position your ridgepole, you will need to find several ribs, which are straight sticks or branches that will support the leaves, sticks, and other insulating debris that you will use to cover your entire shelter with. Make sure none of the ribs stick up too high over the ridgepole. If the ribs are exposed, rain may channel through the debris and onto the ridgepole and drip into your shelter. If they are easily available, adding more rib branches to the walls can add to the strength and may provide slightly better heat retention. The more leaves and available debris in and on top of your shelter will also help with the increased heat retention. Try to make your shelter small. Smaller shelters with less space inside have less area to heat and are more efficient. It should only be large enough for you to get into and be surrounded by the leaves and grasses above and below you. Place debris for your bedding inside the shelter before completing the sides, and have lots more just outside your doorway to pull in for a blanket over you. The more ground bedding insulation you have, besides being more comfortable, will also help lessen the heat loss to the ground through a process known as conduction. Once you're in your shelter and you have enough leaves above and below you, pull more leaves in to cover the entrance to your shelter, providing further protection from the elements, and settle in for a comfortable night's rest. We hope you found this video informative, and remember, the first prep should always be knowing how.